Hello and welcome to Views on News. I'm Jawad Tehami. In today's program, we are going to take up for discussion two important things. First relates to when it comes to the 2 years have been marked since that war that has been unleashed with relentless and disproportionate bombardment by the illegal Israeli regime and its illegal occupation forces, particularly in the enclave of Gaza. It's been 2 years. This particular brutality has been unleashed by this illegal regime. In the second part, we are going to take up for discussion the 7th round of Moscow format talks. The joint statement regarding that has also been issued. In the second segment, we are going to understand as to what is the content of that particular joint statement, what does it basically call for, and what has been emphasized in that particular joint statement. Now, the first segment, when we talk about as the situation which has developed over the last 2 years in Gaza, particularly owing to Israeli brutality, which has been going on unabated. As we are speaking, there are reports that Hamas delegation and also the negotiating team of Israeli regime are in Egypt, and they've had their indirect talks regarding as to the 20-point plan which was put forth by President Donald Trump. We had seen a few days back there was a response by Palestinian resistance group Hamas regarding that particular 20-point plan. The regional countries, the Arab and Muslim countries, have also been involved, and there has been a joint statement by them as well regarding the welcoming as to what the response by the Palestinian resistance group Hamas has been. This story did not start actually from 7th of October 2023. This illegal occupation continues for decades in the Palestinian territories by Israeli illegal regime, not only in contravention to the international law, but also to the United Nations Security Council resolutions. Also, there has been expansion and consolidation of the settlements within the Palestinian territories by the Israelis, which have also been against the aspirations of not only the Palestinian people, but also of the international community. There have been a lot of efforts which have been put in the past regarding to bring peace and stability in this particular region, but it has been the Israeli side which has been violating all those peace efforts, even if any sort of a peace accord had been reached between the stakeholders in that particular region as well. Since 7th of October, since it has committed genocide against the people in Gaza, the case went into International Court of Justice, and there are a number of resolutions which were passed with overwhelming majority calling for a ceasefire, permanent ceasefire in the Gaza enclave by the United Nations General Assembly. But there are a number of resolutions which were vetoed at the United Nations Security Council by the United States of America. Most recently, President Donald Trump has come up with a 20-point peace plan in Gaza, and of course there has been a response by Hamas, and that has led to the indirect talks between Hamas as well as the mediators in Egypt as well as the Israeli regime delegation. To discuss all this, the history of this particular conflict in the Middle East, Israeli illegal occupation, its expansion and consolidation of its illegal settlements in the Palestinian territories, it unleashing the atrocities and brutalities against the innocent people of not only Gaza, but also other Palestinian territories, including the West Bank, on a humongous proportion, and what is the way forward. When we saw the recent 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly, many countries recognized independent Palestinian state, including the close US allies, including France, the UK, Australia, and Canada, which was, of course, criticized by Israeli regime as well as the United States of America. To understand all this, the viability of the two-state solution, we are honored to have been joined in the studio by none other than His Excellency Zuhair Mohammad Hamadallah Zaid. He is Palestine's ambassador to Pakistan. Excellency Dr. Zaid, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Let's begin our discussion. Since 7th of October 2023, it was an act of resistance on the part of the Palestinian resistance group Hamas, which led to that disproportionate bombardment on the part of Israeli regime, which continues unabated, despite the fact that the indirect talks regarding the 20-point peace plan put forth by President Donald Trump are underway in Egypt between all the stakeholders as well as the mediators. The Israeli regime, its illegal occupation forces resorted to bombardment of humongous proportions, did not care about the children, did not care about women, did not even care about the aid workers, did not care about the tents, the shelters, did not even care about the journalists. It also went to an extent that they also used food and water as a weapon of war. What is the situation on the ground at the moment in the Palestinian territories, most particularly in Gaza?
Thanks for having me. The situation is so horrible. The situation is so difficult. Let us say that this entity, Israel, as a state from day one of its creation, it's a racist state. It's a state that depends on military gangs. They continue their harassment, their war against our people. They committed many massacres. If we go and look to the history, it's very clear, more than 54 massacres that had been lodged against the Palestinians. The issue that at that time, we do not have the social media, we do not have this type of communication. Now everything is very clear in front of the world. Israel launched this war against our people under allegation that what's happening 7th of October. But Israel had been sieged Gaza along 17 years. Israel has been expanded their settlements, confiscating land, detaining Palestinians, also in the West Bank, in Jerusalem, in Al-Quds, also violating the holy places for Muslims and the Christian in Jerusalem. So Israel did not stop its measures against the Palestinians, its crimes against the Palestinians in all levels. Now, what's we can see there in Gaza, more than 80% of the total construction for Gaza at all had been demolished. If we look to the infrastructure, if we look to the houses, if we look to the hospitals, to the schools, to the universities, everything has been demolished. It means Gaza became now impossible to live in it. No water resources demolished also. No electricity, no medicine, nothing, no food, starvation, imposing, do not allow aid to enter to Gaza. So what's going on in Gaza until now, until this moment, despite the negotiation that's happening there in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt, Israel still continue bombarding and killing our people. And this is the what needed to be done, that President Trump should impose in Israel to stop their bombardment in Gaza, like what he did when the Israeli airplane was in their way to attack Iran and ask them to come back. When this happened from also other American presidents, when they stop Israelis from committing or occupying some lands, of what's happening also in Lebanon, the same. So it's very important to ask Israel, and it's the responsibility of the Americans if they want to be a real mediator in this peace process.
Right. Do you think a ceasefire in the short term, in the immediate term, and the broader peace in the long term, in this particular, as far as the resolution of this particular conflict is concerned, in the sight as far as after President Donald Trump put forth his 20-point plan?
To be honest, this is depending upon the American rule, how the American will practice. If the Americans will impose this on the Israeli side, Netanyahu do not have the will, the real will to stop the war. The war he want to continue because he want to rescue himself from going to the court for the crimes that he did. Netanyahu also want to assure his government stability until next November. This is this is what Netanyahu want. So if the Americans want, Netanyahu can stop this war. It depends upon just the American will. If really they want to stop this war and to have peace in our region or not.
Right. How do you look at Hamas's response? These indirect negotiations, as well as with the inclusion of the mediators, are underway in Egypt. Simultaneously, that bombardment continues with impunity unabated by the Israeli regime. How do you first of all look at Hamas's response when it comes to deter Israeli illegal occupation, firstly, its expansion of the illegal settlements, secondly, thirdly, when it comes to its military aggression in the Palestinian territories? What about the unity among all the Palestinian factions when it comes to deter all these from Israeli regime?
Honestly, the issue here that the Israelis try to find every time allegations to their aggression against the Palestinians. Hamas or any other group in the Palestinian arena do not have the ability to impose agenda. They have the military abilities. They have the support and the immunity from the American side in international arena in general, in particular in all the international organizations. So as a Palestinian side, it doesn't matter whom, we do not have the we are not an army that can face the Israeli army, who is very enhanced and very strong
Excellency,
army.
in that sort of a scenario, then what remains to be the solution for the Palestinian people, and how crucial this idea or the concept or the two-state solution, which is necessary in this particular regard? Because if Palestinians have a sovereign, independent and a contiguous state, it will definitely have something of its own in terms of military force. Am I correct in understanding that? So how crucial is the implementation of the two-state solution? And also, given the fact, most recently we have seen major closer US allies, including France, Canada, Australia, and the UK, have recognized the independent Palestinian state.
To continue what I started, the responsibility at the end for what's going on the ground for the Israeli occupation, aggression, and atrocities that they are doing against our people. The second responsibility for the international community. From our side as a Palestinians, we are from day one ready for a long time, from 1988, when our President Yasser Arafat declared the state of Palestine on the borders of 1967. Until now, we are ready for two-state solution. The international community had adopted this. The international community and all the states in the world, especially in the last conference in New York, they adopted this. And they adopted also programs, steps to start implementing the implementation of the two-state solution. This is what's happened just last month. Now, what should happen directly to achieve this solution? There is some states that they took effective steps, like Spain. Just yesterday, the foreign minister of Germany said that also the German government had took a decision to prevent Israel from taking weapons that they can use against Palestinians in Gaza. This has happened in many different states in Europe. There are some states that they cut the relation between Israel and them, like Colombia. There is also some states that they took trade sanctions against Israel. So if this process will continue, this is what will lead to some fruits. Because without the pressure on the Israeli side, without also combination and positive interaction from the American side to accept two-state solution, this will not happen. It's very important to see a positive interaction from the American side, whom, to be honest, now isolated. They are alone in the Security Council against this idea. Britain and France now with Russia and with China are with the solution of two-state with this solution. So the Americans is alone. If the Americans want to be and continue to be isolated, I do not think.
Right. So one last question, Excellency. When it comes to the role and the responsibility of the Arab and Muslim countries, most recently we have seen they've been putting in a lot of endeavors in this particular regard as to resolve this particular conflict. When it comes to emphasizing the need for a permanent ceasefire there as well, alleviating the suffering, the pain of the people of Gaza in particular, how do you expect, or how Palestinian people expect these Arab and Muslim countries in the future in order to not only rebuild, reconstruct Gaza, help Palestinian people in the longer run, and also continue to support Palestinians till they achieve their right to self-determination and a separate, contiguous, independent Palestinian state of their own?
My point of view is like this. First of all, the responsibility on us, the Palestinians. We should find a way how to unite ourselves, how to agree for our future. What we want for our future. We want an independent state. Independent state, it means we should have one law, we should have one security forces, we should have a democratic state. This is what we want as a Palestinians. So it's not allowed to see any party or any organization to have its own militia. This is not accepted at all. And Hamas, especially Hamas and other organizations, should understand this. And I think that they understood when they accept the last initiative from President Trump. They understand this very well, despite that this understanding came late. Also, it's a crucial for us to find our brothers, Arabs and Muslim countries, standing strongly beside us. And what's happened in the summit of the Arab and Muslim countries regarding the two-state solution had been adopted internationally now, and now the implementation of this. The Arab and Muslim countries strongly stand with the two-state solution, supporting us as a Palestinian to not just to have a ceasefire, but also to start implementing the two-state solution, because the result, we will never have stability or security in our region without having a solution for the Palestinian issue, without the Palestinian people having their full rights in their own state with East Jerusalem as its capital.
One last question, it's a supplementary question, since you mentioned of Hamas in your last take as well. Now, this group has also said that it was ready to hand over to the administration of the Gaza Strip to a Palestinian body of independence, technocrats based on Palestinian national consensus and with the Arab and Islamic support. How do you respond to this particular statement by Hamas? They are willing to hand over the administration of the Gaza Strip to the body of technocrats.
We have 160 states in the world recognize the Palestinian state. The Palestinian Authority and its government representing the Palestinian state. The full authority should be just in the hands of the government of Palestine, who will have the authority there and should extend its authority is the Palestinian government. Gaza part of an integral part of our state, so the authority should be for our government. This is what we expect from the whole world to support. This is what Hamas also had agreed and recognized, because Hamas, when they accept this plan, they spoke about what's related to the war, to the hostages, to some issues, but the national issues, they recognized and said this is in the hand of the Palestinian, PLO, Palestinian Liberation Organization, and the Palestinian Authority. And as I mentioned, this is too late. They should did this before 2 years, not today.
Excellency Dr. Zuhair Mohammad Zaid, Palestine's ambassador to Pakistan, thank you very much for taking time out for Views on News at Pakistan TV. We really appreciate that. It's time for a short break, and we are going to continue the discussion as the situation unfolding in Gaza, as the indirect talks between Israeli negotiating team, Hamas delegation, in the presence of mediators, are underway in Egypt, yet Israeli regime continues with bombarding the innocent people in Gaza. For that, stay tuned. Welcome back to Views on News. In today's program, we are discussing as the situation is developing and unfolding in Gaza, particularly when the indirect talks between Israeli negotiating team, Hamas's negotiating team are underway in the presence of mediators in Egypt. The relentless bombardment and the murder or the massacre of the innocent Gazans continues at the hands of Israeli illegal regime and its illegal occupation forces. To discuss it further, we are honored to be joined in the studio by Mr. Bakir Younas. He is a Palestinian journalist. Mr. Younas, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on the show. It's nice, really appreciate that. Were there any options at the hands of Hamas, Palestinian resistance group, regarding the President Trump's 20-point plan? Because they've agreed to release all the occupation captives, both living and remains. They've also said that they are ready to immediately enter negotiations through mediators, which have already started. And they've also expressed their readiness to hand over the administration of the Gaza Strip to a Palestinian body of independence. Was there, firstly, any other option at the end of Hamas regarding the Trump's 20-point plan?
You see, actually, the Palestinian situation now, it's not about what Hamas will decide and what options Hamas have. Actually, we are in a situation where the massacre of the Palestinians, where the genocide, with the cleansing of the Palestinians are continuously happening in front of the world, in front of the eyes of the world, in front of everybody. It's happening everywhere, and there is no options. In the international community. There's no options with the United Nations. There's no options, even with the United States, to stop it. So it's just minimizing the thing and saying it's only Hamas who have the option and Hamas have to stop. Actually, this is a very, like unlikely to say, because Hamas is one group. Okay, it's one group in Palestine. It's not the Palestinian whole society. It's not the Palestinian people itself. So, having said that, we should consider this criminal act, these criminal happenings from the Israeli side, this killing. Actually, this is the option we should have. We should actually, as a nation, as a world, we should think about how to stop the Israeli from doing this. So even Biden, the U.S. president, the previous one, he said in his many interviews that he had again and again asked Netanyahu to stop killing this Palestinian civilians. So this is not something legal. It's not something, an option or with the Israeli army. It is actually a crime committed by the Israeli army. We should think, how should we counter this crime? How can we actually take those criminals to the court of justice?
Possibilities in that particular regard, Mr. Younas, when it comes to how crucial, firstly, is the unity when it comes to deterring Israeli aggression, the consolidation and the expansion of their illegal settlements, the kind of terror they have unleashed on the innocent people in Gaza. How crucial it is, when you already also mentioned that Hamas happens to be one of those factions, one of those groups among many of the Palestinian groups. How important is that unity, consensus, unanimity among all these factions? And what could be the possible manifestations or the options or the processes through which all these factions, once united, could actually practically deter Israeli nefarious designs?
See, we are dealing with an army. We are dealing with the Israeli who actually have a full-fledged army with the full support and with no manners, with no rules, with no actual limits. So this is the problem we are facing. It's not, by the way, the problem we are facing in Palestine that most of the world have left the Palestinians alone facing the Israeli criminals. I will not name them like a state. I will not name them, like, they are actually criminals. See, killing children, you are a criminal. Killing civilians, you are a criminal. Destroying this infrastructure of the whole city for what? You had your your hostages with Hamas. You could have done any deal with Hamas. You could have asked them to release. You could have done anything, not killing civilians. So this act is an act of crime. They have announced it. This is a criminal. They have said that Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal. So if you are saying that
taking
at
the
the
flip
same
side
time,
of this particular thing, taking the flip side of it, if they wanted the captives to be released, as far as Israeli regime's perspective on this or position is concerned, and if Hamas would have released, considering the fact that more and more innocent people in Gaza were being murdered or butchered, in fact, by that humongous bombardment on the part of the Israeli regime and its illegal occupation forces, wasn't it an option for the Hamas right at the outset or somewhere in the middle of this particular conflict since 7th of October? It's been 2 years now. Considering this fact that more people were dying, more people were facing starvation, hunger, they could have released those captives, expecting the Israeli regime to stop its aggression.
you see, there is nothing you can expect from the Israeli regime. Nothing positive you can. They have already occupied Palestine since 1948. They are taking the land. What do you think?
Because this is
Hamas have
something
said this
as
many
a
times.
pretext they've got. Israeli regime has got this thing as a pretext regarding the captives. Right, so captives, they say they are in the hands of Hamas, they haven't been released. Hence this particular, their operation that continues against the Hamas, in fact.
Hamas have announced many times, we are ready to release the captive. Stop the war. Let us they are unable to reach to the captives because of the war. See, they stop the airstrikes, stop the tank strikes, stop the war. Let us find, we are with this, stop the war, withdraw from Gaza, and then we'll give it as a captive. And with the guarantees that you're not going to attack us again. That's what they have said. They have said this many times. This is not, the reason why Israel is doing this. So actually, the Israelis want us to believe that this is the reason why they're doing this. So what was the reason when they occupied Palestine? Is it like this is the first time somebody did something to Zaid? That's why they are killing the Palestinians. They have killed Palestinians since 1948. They are killing the Palestinians. So it's not the first time. So it's showing it as if it is.
Okay, one quick last question, and your quicker answer regarding that. What are the sticking points as far as these negotiations are underway? Does it relate to the hostages or anything that relates to Hamas's disarmament? One of the 2 points that directly pertain to Hamas in that 20-point peace plan by President Donald Trump, or does it pertain to the future governance of Gaza and no role of Hamas in that? What are the sticking points, and do you see any sort of success of these negotiations happening?
Success is, by the way, percentage of success is very rare, very less. But the main sticking point is the weapons and the guns Hamas have. They want Hamas to surrender their weapons to the Israeli and leave Gaza. I think Hamas won't do this because it stands on this, that they have to stay fighting for the freedom of Palestine. So I think they won't accept this. But the main point now is, for us, yes, is how to stop the airstrikes on the Gazan people, which actually I don't think the Israel will do it.
Right. Mr. Bakir Younas, Palestinian Journalist, thank you very much for being with us on this show tonight. Really appreciate that. With that, we come to the next particular segment. Now, let's proceed towards the second segment that relates to the 7th round of the Moscow format meeting that happened in Russia. And it is the first time that the interim Afghan Foreign Minister Amir Khan Muttaqi, who is being accompanied by a delegation, has participated in these particular talks. The joint statement has been issued in which it has been said, let me quote, the parties reiterated their commitment to continue humanitarian support to the Afghan people and called on the international community to intensify provision of emergency humanitarian assistance to the Afghan people while simultaneously reaffirming opposition to the attempts of politicizing it. The parties called for strengthening counterterrorism cooperation in both bilateral and multilateral levels. They emphasized that Afghanistan should be supported to undertake comprehensive measures aimed at the elimination of terrorism and its eradication with a short time frame so that Afghan soil is not used as a threat to the security of the neighboring countries and beyond. The parties underscored that terrorism constitutes a serious threat to the security of Afghanistan, the region, and the wider world. At the end, this particular joint statement says, let me quote, the parties called unacceptable the attempts by the countries to deploy their military infrastructure in Afghanistan and neighboring states, since this does not serve the interests of regional peace and stability, unquote. Let me quickly bring in, we are honored to be joined through the video link, Mr. Zahir Sherazi. He is Afghan affairs expert. Mr. Sherazi, thank you very much for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Firstly, I'll come to you regarding the contents of this particular joint statement. Firstly, give us your understanding regarding as to the importance and significance of the interim Afghan Foreign Minister Amir Khan Muttaqi's participation in this 7th round, and this is the first time he has participated in these format talks.
Thank you very much, Jawad. I think it's for the first time that Muttaqi is being part of officially as a representative of Afghanistan. In the 4th meeting of the Moscow format, he participated as a guest. And more importantly, before this joint statement, the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei statement is very important, because what he said that Afghanistan had been left by the West and the Western allies in a very difficult situation. He have also mentioned that the Afghan assets in the Western banks and the Western countries, they should be defrozen so the Afghan government can carry out its routine activities and do whatever is needed in terms of monetary and financial needs. But importantly, the issue of those militant organizations, especially the BLA, TTP, ISK, and a number of others, they were taken up as we have seen Pakistan's special envoy, Mr. Sadiq, has communicated on his X account that they have taken up a number of issues. Separate meeting with Russian delegates as well as Iranians as well as Chinese representative. I think it's very important that Pakistan, China, and Russia, they have agreed to launch joint efforts for counter-terrorism and rooting out terrorism from Afghanistan, which is very important for the development activities and the regional stability. Because I think all of these countries, the Central Asian republics, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, as well as Pakistan, Iran, and China, they are the direct effectees of whatever is going on in Afghanistan. And the presence of Afghan Foreign Minister Muttaqi is very much of importance, that he has been clearly communicated that these regional countries are willing to support Afghanistan in terms of their trade, economy, as well as development and rehabilitation. But there must be a guarantee for rooting out those terrorist organizations which are threatening all of these countries. And a joint agreement on rooting out terrorism in a collective way, it is very important, because now there is a compulsion on Afghan government, who had been using the TTP, BLA, and the Afghan refugees as a bargaining chip against Pakistan, and had always been accusing it. So I think this is very important. Now the regional countries, they have realized Afghan problems have a regional solution. I think the presence of any foreign troops, especially in the form of American arrival in Bagram, that would be more destructive, and it would, kick off a new great game, which would involve China, Russia, and Pakistan. So it's a timely decision. If we have a joint declaration that these regional countries are going to implement that, that would be very important. And also, this is a message again for the Western allies, the West, as well as
I'll come to this particular part of what sort of a message does it actually give to the Western countries, and also those countries which are being mainly responsible for the current predicament in Afghanistan, quote unquote, as per this particular statement. Let's specifically talk about it. I want your understanding when this particular statement talks about, let me quote that excerpt, when it comes to the counterterrorism, the collective efforts, and also urging upon the interim Afghan authorities their responsibility to take that concrete action. Let me quote. The parties emphasized that Afghanistan should be supported to undertake comprehensive measures aimed at the elimination of terrorism and its eradication with a short time frame so that Afghan soil is not used as a threat to the security of the neighboring countries and beyond. So the time frame, the short time frame, there is no mention of what does this particular short time frame does mean in this particular entire framework. As per your understanding, what this short time frame could be possibly?
I think this is very much clear, and the Chinese have already communicated. They have even halted the CPEC extension and a number of other development projects, especially exploration of oil in the Amur River, because that project is also halted. The CPEC extension, the TIP project, as well as the CASA 1000, which would be now rooting out, and also the main train project from Mazar to Landi Kotal, and it's up to the Iranian and Turkish cities. I think this is very important. The time frame, I think it will be very short. Perhaps this is the last warning to the Afghan interim Kabul government. They have clearly been asked to,
if it is the last warning, so what is going to be what are going to be the options? If it is going to be the last warning to the Afghan authorities, and if they're not going to comply with it, what are going to be the options at the hands of the regional countries in particular?
Jawad, what is important, I think if Muttaqi has might have clearly communicated that the Afghan interim Kabul government don't have the, authority, they don't have the capacity to root out or take out these TTP, BLA and the ISK militants. Then what is next? The next is that the regional countries, China, which is directly infected by the TIP and ETI militants. Pakistan is directly affected by the BLA and the TTP militants. Iran is also facing a lot of threat from some of these militant groups. The Central Asian republics are worried about IMU. So this is very clear. I think the collective efforts mean, I think these countries are likely to have a joint venture then. And that would be, perhaps they would be having an intelligence-based operation against these hideouts, because Pakistan has very clearly communicated the terrorist hideouts in Kunad, in Nuristan, in Paktika, and Host. So this is very much clear. Where are these people? Where are their families are living?
Quite a clarity in that particular regard. There is quite a clarity in that particular regard. I get your point. One last question. Unfortunately, we're short of time. When this particular joint statement says they called unacceptable the attempts by the countries to deploy their military infrastructure in Afghanistan and neighboring states, since this does not serve the interests of the regional peace and stability, to whom this particular message is being relayed?
I think this message is very clear towards the Americans who wanted to have this Bagram Air base back. And that was the main message, because the regional countries don't want Afghanistan to allow anyone. Afghanistan has refused the United States that they would not be allowing Bagram to be used by either Americans, Chinese, or Russians. But there is another message again, because the Indians are very much anxious to engage Afghanistan through Chabahar. So I think this is also a message for the Indian policymakers and Indian lobbyists that these regional countries won't want Indian presence inside Afghanistan. That is also a serious threat not only to Pakistan, but again, you have seen what happened in Iran. So Iran would also be very cautious, and they would not be, giving any way that Indians might have an access through Chabahar, and Afghanistan is doing a business through India and Chabahar fort. So I think the message is very clear. If Afghanistan wanted to have a developed Afghanistan, they would have to have an inclusive government. They would engage all the stakeholders, including the Northern Rise, the Uzbek, Tajiks, and the other ethnicities there. They would have to guarantee the civil rights, the human rights, the women rights. In that case, I think both China, Russia, the Central Asian Republic, and Pakistan, and even Iran, they are the neighboring countries which are likely to extend all-out support. And the support already, which has been announced by the Russian foreign minister, that they want their frozen accounts to
Sherazi, Afghan Affairs. Thank you very much for being with us on the show tonight. We really appreciate that. Unfortunately, we're short of time. I'll have to wrap the show right over here. Thank you very much for being with us on Views on News tonight. Really appreciate that. With that, we come to the end of today's episode. Till the next one, take good care of yourselves.